Hello.
Hi.
Hi, everyone. We're on YouTube right now. We're on Instagram right now. And we're talking in the future. So people are going to be hearing this in December. So December always comes with a lot of emotions. It's the end of the year. We're all ready for it to just be like freaking over. We've got holidays and like just the end of the year stress. If you have kids like us, they have to wear something brand new every single week, every single day. It's like I need an ugly sweater. I need to dress like a candy
Well,
cane. I
first
need
it's
to be like.
first it's like Halloween, right? And then they've got
Then
like
there's Spirit Week.
Spirit Week where you like dress up as something and they don't want to dress up as the same thing as Halloween. And then you've got like Great Americans Day where
Oh
he's
my
like, I want
God.
to be an astronaut. And it's like, dude, we can't buy an astronaut costume for a 1 day thing.
I really had to like talk him off that astronaut ledge.
So we're just gonna turn him into Walt Disney and put a little
Yeah,
mustache.
I'm like, can we just put you in a suit and tie? Who's
Take
gonna
a
be?
shot. There's a cat.
Take a shot. There's a cat. Okay, so today we're going to talk about conflict and, resolution, especially like working with your partner. And like, it's kind of, I
How
mean,
to fight.
how to fight, how to not fight too, because I
Hmm.
think that we're really good about not
If
fighting.
you get really good at fighting, it becomes not fighting.
100%. Do you remember the last time that I screamed at you?
Yes. It was
It's,
about my computer cord.
it's so funny because something about me, well, pretty much both of us, is that as soon as it's like time to go to bed and either one of us like gets under the covers, we are good as out. So
We
like
fall asleep immediately.
fall asleep so freaking fast. And so, but there's always this little bit of like a 5 minute period where it's very lucid. And so what happened is you came home from
From a
like
funeral.
from a trip. I don't, okay, you
It
came
was
home
a
from a
funeral.
funeral.
It was a
Okay.
sad affair.
And you came home and he was just like, where's my computer cord? And I was just like, and we had already been talking about it like the week before, like days before of like, hey, let's all have, because we mostly work from home, like have like your place where you put your stuff, you know? And so then you're like, where's my computer cord? And you for
I definitely said
free,
it like that.
you did. Okay, so then what happened?
You said where it always is, where it usually is, something like that.
I used some type of word that in your mind was like, it has to be, it's concrete. So then when it wasn't, I'm immediately a liar.
Well, I didn't call you a liar.
But that's the intention, right?
Yeah.
And then what happened? And I'm like, again, I'm like, I'm going to sleep.
You got
I am
up
so out of
in a
it.
fury,
In a
in a
fury.
blind rage.
I had fire coming out of my
And then
ears.
you found
I
my
go
cord
and I pick it up.
immediately,
And
of
I was
course.
just like, it's right here. And then what happened?
I'm actually really ashamed about this part.
Okay, you don't have to mention
Well,
it.
I had an empty box in my hand and I like tried to throw it like on her just to like because I was pissed.
Yeah, just
So
to
I
piss
was
me
trying to
off.
just like set it on your legs while you were sleeping.
Set it.
Wow. Frisbee it. It was like a record box. It was very light.
It
But
was
I
super
tried to
light.
frisbee it onto your legs and it whizzed past you and you were like, "Did you just throw that at me?"
And I screamed at you like all of my ancestral matriarchs were like coming out of me.
I think I saw some flying out.
It was so, and I was just like, oh my God, I'm so, and again, because I fall asleep so fast, I was already in bed. I remember it was like all within like it probably was like a minute long.
Yeah.
And I fell asleep and then I woke up and I was just like, oh yeah, like what happened? Because you slept on the couch too. Because I was just like, there's no way you're
Yeah.
getting in bed with me. And so then we woke up and we just started laughing because it was just so,
So absurd.
ridiculous.
And it was the first fight we've probably been in years. Like
Years,
years.
years. It'd been so long. And then then when like the kids wake up, And like our daughter, and like she's older, and we're like, "Did you hear us last night?" And I don't think they even heard us. And she was just like, "No, I didn't hear anything." And I was just like, "Oh my."
Uh,
So all that to say, that
that's
was our
not that we actually did that just to show you guys what not to do.
yeah.
So that's for you.
Wonderful that we had that little fight, but I think it's just it's comical. I think it's really funny now. Like
To be honest, most of our fights in our 20 years have been about
geography is a freaking huge one, and nobody believes us. But it's till to this day, like when we were just thinking of like, okay, like you're gonna need to be in Riverside. How far away is that? Like we're still like, don't make any assumptions. Just go straight to Google Maps.
Let's look
'cause
at the
we're
map.
like we're not gonna make any assumptions.
Because one of us is going to go, well,
Geography,
Riverside's only like 20 miles east
Oh,
of this.
yeah,
And then
it's
you're like, no, it's not.
It's near Corona. You're like
west
it's
of
near Long Beach. You're
West
like-
Covina.
Oh, where is West Covina?
I don't know.
West Covina, please tell us.
If you listen to the traffic report in Los Angeles, there's a bunch of places that I don't think really exist.
Alhambra?
Doesn't exist. Altadena? No one lives there. There's no pile up
Isn't
in Altadena.
Altadena just like a dairy?
I think so. I don't think it
I think they
exists.
just sell cheese. Okay. Conflict. Okay, but here's the thing. I think the reason that we are able to fight so well is that we used to have really horrible fights when we were dating and first like married. And one of the worst ones again was geography when we were trying to plan our honeymoon and the location of where the Yucatan Peninsula is. But I think like to get really into it, why do you think like what changed to where we don't really have these kind of fights anymore?
I can tell you what changed for me.
Okay.
In college, I had an amazing...
Because I didn't change anything. I've been great this whole time.
Yeah,
So
it's all me.
It was really
of
all
course.
you.
But in college, I had an amazing psychology teacher that I loved, and he had a special class on empathy, and it was like not for any credit, like it didn't count towards my college credit or my degree or anything. It was just basically an elective, but I took it because I loved the teacher so much, and a bulk of the class, which I'd never done before, was sitting and listening to someone without responding. So you would make cues like you're listening, like or okay, or shaking your head like that you're listening, but you weren't allowed.
See what I just did there?
Yes, good job. Thank you. You're listening. See, but no, but you were not allowed to give advice. You weren't allowed to like, oh well, that's nothing. When I was 25, I went through this. Like none of that. And it was all based on this psychologist, I think, from that developed this sort of empathic listening idea. And there were even studies that came out that, people went to a normal psychiatrist where they, would tell them advice. And there were other ones where the guy would just listen and kind of like lead them on a little bit like, oh, that sounds tough. And they go, yeah, it is tough. Blah, blah, blah. And it actually ended up being that, at least in this study, the people that went to the psychologist that did not give advice actually felt better. Like they got really listened to instead of, waiting to tell, like, because we're all, especially when we're fighting too, we're just waiting to get our word in there. Like my ego big time. Like if you, in the beginning, when you would tell me I did something wrong, my ego would immediately shoot up and I'd be like, I have to defend myself. So I'd like cut you off or like just, I would let you finish just so I could get to the point where I could say my piece.
Yeah.
But that class really taught me to like just listen and realize that like my job in that moment isn't to think of a rebuttal or to one up you or to tell you you're wrong. My job is to listen. And then once you're done, then I can process it more because I feel like there's a bell curve of like ego where you're like, right when you attack me, when you tell me I did something wrong or you're hurt, my ego immediately shoots up to like, and then, but the more I listen, the more I kind of like let it naturally come back down. Then I'm in a more like
Critical thinking,
not
space.
as reactive
Yeah.
place where I can go, oh, I'm in a place where I can actually like, I'm more like tempered, where I
Yeah.
can like respond And so, and then even when I've done like mindfulness meditation, there's a lot of like mindful listening that you do in those classes sometimes where you do that exact same thing, which is really helpful. And so I think knowing that my job when you're upset is not to prove you wrong or if we're in a disagreement, my job isn't to be right. It's our job to come to a solution. And it's not you have a problem and I have a problem. It's like we have a problem, so let's figure it out together.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think a big part of when like it started to change for us was realizing like we're on the same team. I think it's really, again, the ego wants to say, I need to protect myself. So whoever is making me triggered, whoever's making me reactive is immediately the enemy instead of, no, we're on the same team and I get better as a person when we work together to resolve conflict. And I mean, I will say, like, luckily we have a lot of the same tastes in the things that we like to do, the places we want to go, the food we want to eat, um, how we want to decorate the
Music.
house. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like there's a lot of similarities with that. And I could see how it would be much harder if we were really at odds with some of those things. But I think as we've grown together, I think those things have also been affected because it's not just, I mean, you love horror movies, right? So, but I don't like to watch them. So it could be something where like now that we're a team and now we're looking at things like as a team, we say like, okay, when we sit down for like movie night, let's find something that we both want to watch. And when you want to go watch horror movies and, you know, I want to watch something else, like we just go like, oh, that's something on your own. But like it could be something where you're like, this is what I want to do regardless of what you want to do. And therefore it's kind of like that, like it's not working as a team.
Yeah.
And I'm using movies as like something super benign, but it even goes into like finances and like where do we live and what house do we buy or live in, like, you know, making decisions about the kids, like all of these things, like really has to first come from that place of like, I know that you want what's best for me and for us, and you know that I want what's best for you and for us,
Right. And so if we
an
come to a
extension is
place
the
where we
kids.
can't agree, then we have to like hash that out and figure out what we both want what's best, but we
Yeah.
can talk it out without getting super upset or
Yeah, and I think there's also times that we've come to where like we both are like, I don't really know what do we do here, and one of us will have. It's very rare when both of us have a strong conviction that goes like opposite. Usually we'll come to something, and if one of us is like, I really feel strongly we should do this, then we go, okay, let's go with that, you
Yeah.
know, and then the other person is like, okay, well, I feel really strongly about this. All right, let's go in that direction. So, but I think it's like, yeah, that like teamwork kind of thing. And it's funny because remember when we went on that, we went on a family vacation and with like my sisters and like all of the kids and like all this stuff. And there was a moment where we were like driving all in this minivan, remember? And we started coming up with like, we just would start screaming, we're on the same team. Like, 'cause we would get into this mood of like, oh, one kid's hungry, one kid wants to do this, some, you know, and we'd be like, we're on the same team. And we would be like, and then we started laughing about it. But it is kind of like this, like, yeah, like I think a lot of times we forget that as you know, people who are in a partnership together, you truly are on the same team, and it's really easy to forget it.
yeah, I think too, like, for example, like a curiosity, I think is an important one for me. And it also part of that mindfulness thing. Like when you're like, oh, I love Pride and Prejudice, right? Like when was that a movie that I probably would have picked myself? No, but I'm interested in it because you're interested in it and it means a lot to you.
Yeah.
So again, we're talking about movies, but like, I want to see and I loved it, you know, when you
Right.
showed it to me. So it's one of those things where it's like, just because it's not like familiar to me. I mean, sometimes it's hard to get out of the familiarity of like, well, this is easy for me. This is the way I've always done it. And it's like, no,
Yeah.
but you do something differently. Let's try that. And, you know, having a curiosity about things, especially things that don't matter that much.
Yeah.
I mean, even in business, right? Like when we get bad reviews, it can be all of a sudden like an ego punch, right? But then sometimes you read them. Sometimes, I mean, you get the whole gamut. You get some that are just like, I thought that person's tattoos were scary. We did get that one. And, you know, I felt
Yeah.
uncomfortable. And you're like, okay, you can't do anything about that.
Yeah.
But then there's one person that's like, you know what? The haircut just wasn't what I wanted. And you're like, they're probably right.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
And but taking that, like, letting them speak, and like instead of immediately reacting like, no, they're wrong. It's like, no, they're right. At least in their mind, they're right.
Yeah.
And it might be valid.
100%.
And if you're upset at me for something that I did, like, you know, I'm not perfect so much. So maybe you're right. So I try and come at it with that angle, like, oh,
Yeah.
she might be right. I'm probably not in a depressive way, like I'm always wrong, but like I'm wrong about all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
So I come with that. I'm like, am I wrong here? I really might be.
Yeah.
And try and look at it as objectively as possible.
Yeah. So the last point that I want to make, because I don't want to go too long, but the last point that I want to make too is I think that, you know, even though we got together when we were quite young, you still come with past experiences and you come from a family that taught you about relationships. And those, and like having especially like your family, like the people that you're raised in and people that you saw, there are beliefs around conflict and finances and love and commitment. Like you're coming into a partnership with all of that. And I think that it's very easy to want to rely on what you saw and to then emulate it as like an adult. And I think that something that you and I are even continually doing almost 20 years into our marriage is still letting go of those beliefs that will pop up from time and time again that go like, oh, I think that because that's what my parents did or that's what I saw happen here. And having to let go of like, oh, there's actually no rules to how you and your partner decide to do things. It's all up, like it's about like what works for you guys, what works for the two of you. And it might be different than what you saw emulate as a child or in your other past, you know, relationships. And so like letting go of, you know, a man has to be this way, a woman has to be this way, or the partner has to do this, or I have to do this. It's like you can let go of all of those kinds of like rules or expectations and work together to find like your own path and working as a team that works best for you, right? There are some chores that I'm like, I don't want to do that. And there's some chores that you're like, I don't want to do that. And I'm like, oh, that's no problem for me. The one that we both don't want to do, fold laundry.
Yeah.
But we go, okay, let's put on our show and like, let's just bust it out. But it's like, you know, again, you find what works for you as a family, what works for you as a couple, as a partnership to have the life that you want to have. So letting go of, you know, it has to look this certain way or anything like that, you can just let that go because it's not serving you at that point.
Also, I just want to say, like, hold on. Be eager and quick to apologize.
Oh yeah.
I think that's like something, especially for our kids. Like, I know people who had parents that never apologized to them. Like, and I know people. No, but like of course we've like, you know, gotten angry at our kids or for something stupid or we're grumpy and we lash out at them or something, and just being willing to apologize and let them know that like, you know, asking for forgiveness from them for something we've done wrong doesn't mean we're like not their parents or, you know,
right.
not strong
an authority
because
figure.
we made a mistake. It's like, no, it's teaching them to be quick to apologize also, and they'll apologize to each other. And you know, like sometimes they love to bicker with each, like dig at each other, like roast, as the kids, you know, call it. They roast each other, and then one of them will take it too far, and the other one will get sad, and
Yeah.
then they'll be like, "I'm sorry, I didn't," and
Well, I didn't mean it. I was just trying to be funny.
Yeah.
You're like, but you still
Just
went over
say
the line.
sorry.
Just be
Yeah.
like, I'm sorry, and make amends. And
if they see that, I mean, even when we told our kids about the fight, they're like, "You guys got in a fight." They were like, "Whoa!" And so like, and even then, like I'll be like, "Joy, like." I don't know. Like we'll just be joking with each other about something. They're like, "Ooh, you were in a fight."
Yeah.
It's funny, but and it's not that fighting's bad. It's just it's an opportunity to grow. And I
Yeah.
think we grew a lot from that. And like
100%.
because when I first got married, I think I might have told this story in another podcast, but like I remember when we first had dinner together in our first apartment, like I sat down with my fork and started eating, and you're like, "Dude, did you get me a fork?" I was like, "No, go ahead." Like I had no idea that like, oh, we're like supposed to eat together and like
Be a team.
be a team. Like I was just like doing what I normally did in my apartment with my dumbass friends.
Yep.
So,
Oh, your friends weren't dumbass. Well,
no,
They were
we
then.
love them. No, so was I. But no,
what up, Josh?
what up, Josh? No, but that's it. Like
Yeah.
we learned to be a team, and that's like I know that she's got my best interest in
Yeah.
her heart, and I've got her best interest. So
Yep.
be a team
Yep.
and fight. Be ready to fight for the good.
All right. I have a fun. No. Oh, just stop there. That's good. Said mark it. I want to save that story for later. Okay. While we do this, let's. Oh my God.